The Absolute Power has been available for a handful of weeks now, and it's been popular, but it's also a couple $100s, and with the amount of choices available, it's difficult for even some of the best out there to make a decision on what to get. And clickbaity, buzzwordy, or super technical reviews most of the time do little to nothing to help that. I'm sure it seems very overwhelming for someone just getting into it, or someone looking to get more into it, or just make more informed choices on equipment. All 5 of the testers I feature on the channel have drilled a power, so I thought I'd put something together with all of us and hopefully give you a better and simpler look at it. To get started, I'm going to explain some more basic concepts and information and just let you watch ball reaction. First, I'm going to leave the technical stuff out of it. You can find all the tech specs on the website if you want them. The ball page is linked in the description, and while layouts are an important part of fine-tuning ball reaction, we're also going to forget those for now and focus on the very basics. This is one of the tricky parts of doing reviews. The specs and layouts and surfaces and lane conditions are all important pieces of information to people who understand it all to help them figure out where the ball fits and what it actually does. But to someone who doesn't understand, it's very confusing. I already have a couple more in-depth reviews out for the Power, so if that's what you're looking for, I would recommend checking those out. I also have Storm's layout system videos linked in the description. There are 3 of them, and there's nothing better at teaching you core specs, core dynamics, and layouts if you want to learn more about them. You'll also notice that despite different bowling styles and different layouts and different surfaces, the ball reaction looks very similar and very familiar from bowler to bowler, and we're all bowling in the same center on the same lane condition for the sake of consistency. One of the most important things to learn that seems to trip a surprising amount of people up is bowling terminology. While some of it is bowling specific, the vast majority of it is just regular words used to describe what's happening. There's no special meaning, there's nothing extra to read into, just think about what the words being used actually mean and you'll be in good shape. For example, when I say a ball has a more tumbly shape or reaction, think about what the word tumble means. Think about a rock tumbling down a hill. It just kind of slowly bounces and rolls along at the same rate. By contrast, when someone says a ball is revving up, think about what revving means. Stronger cores like the core in the Absolute Power rev up quickly. Think about a figure skater spinning. When they pull their arms in closer to their bodies, they spin faster, and that's what happens with stronger cores. They actually help the ball rev up and spin faster, and the faster they spin, the more they can hook. One term that isn't really misused by reviewers anymore but is still misunderstood or misused by regular bowlers is the term hook. Hook isn't what happens when the ball turns and moves down lane near the pins. Hook is traction. Hook is a ball's ability to dig through the oil on the lane and produce traction. Friction response is what happens on the back end or when the ball encounters dry boards or parts of the lane with little to no oil on it, like near the gutters on a regular league pattern and the back end part of the lane. The Absolute Power's cover stock, where the outer part of the ball that touches the lane, is a medium hook formula. It gets an average amount of grip or traction in the oil and then has a medium strong response to the dry boards at the end of the oil pattern. Think of the core of the ball like the engine of a car and the tires of the car as the cover stock. A big strong engine can't do much with slicker tires that aren't getting any traction, but snow tires aren't going to get much done on a smart car that doesn't have the engine and or torque to make use of them. Now, just like different cars, balls of all kinds are made to be able to match up with different bowler styles and different lane conditions. A bowler with a higher rev rate or a bowler that makes the ball spin faster doesn't often need a ball that's very strong because on most conditions, that will result in an uncontrollable amount of hook. Thinking of bowling balls as golf clubs also helps. I can hit an 8-iron about 130 to 140 yards, but a professional golfer can easily clear 200 yards with one, so the club is the same, but depending on the golfer and the situation, different equipment needs to be used. The Absolute Power has a strong asymmetric core, so it's like a higher horsepower engine that has a turbo or supercharger on it. Again, I won't explain core dynamics here, that's what the videos in the description are for. They have in-depth descriptions with graphics, and 3D models, and demonstrations that explain it much better than I can. It also has a medium strength cover formula, like I said earlier, and is a solid cover type. Cover stocks come in pearl, hybrid, and solid types, and generally pearls come polished and create a more angular or sharper ball reaction or motion. They'll skid more on the oil, but grip or respond much stronger when they find friction or dry boards. Solids usually come sanded and are smoother. They get a little more hook or traction through the oil, and when they do hit friction, they aren't as responsive or sharp, but are still similar on hook to a pearl ball with the same cover formula. I'll talk about that in a second. Hybrids are somewhat misunderstood. They generally fall in between, but most people think it's a blending of solid and pearl cover types. What it actually is, if you take a close look at a hybrid bowling ball, is that one or more colors of the ball are pearl and one or more of the colors are solid. They aren't blended throughout the cover mixture. Some descriptions on the website will even say this ball is 2 parts pearl, 1 part solid, etc. That doesn't mean the cover is 2/3 pearl and 1/3 solid. It means that 2 of the colors on the ball are pearl and the 3rd color is solid. While the Power has a solid cover type, the formula, or what the cover stock is made of, produces a medium strength. Some people will say pearl, hybrid, or solid like it means more than it does. It is a fine-tuning and somewhat important part of or factor in putting all the pieces together when designing a ball and creating the reaction thereafter, but let me show you the difference. Again, the Absolute Power has a strong asymmetric core and medium-strength solid cover stock. The Eternity Pi also has a strong asymmetric core, but a strong solid cover stock. Both are at the same surface, being used on the same lane condition, and as Zach moves deeper on the lane, the Power gets less and less grip. You can see that it still makes a strong move on the back end when it starts moving, but because the cover stock formula is more of a medium strength, it takes longer to get grip or traction and has to rely more on the dry boards at the end of the oil pattern for hook. Switching to the Eternity Pi, it has no problem getting back up to the pocket solidly because the stronger cover formula is helping it hook more through the oil. It doesn't need to rely on dry boards as much as the Absolute Power does. Zach has a pretty high rev rate. He makes the ball spin very fast, so on regular league conditions that typically have a lower amount of oil on them, the Eternity Pi is too strong for him. The Absolute Power fits better, but on the oilier testing pattern here, the Pi works just fine. Now, if he was bowling a tournament on this pattern, over several games, the bowling balls are going to pick up oil off the lane, which makes the conditions less oily and more dry. Once they get more dry, a ball like the Pi is going to start hooking too much, but then the conditions would be perfect for the Absolute Power. To pivot off of this comparison, the Harsh Reality is a new ball also with a strong asymmetric core and a strong solid cover stock similar to the Eternity Pi. However, Zach has a lower grit or rougher surface on the Harsh than he does on the Pi. Surface is another thing that's very misunderstood and that a lot of people are hesitant to adjust. The surface on the Pi is what we call lane shine. It means that as you use a ball, the use gradually makes it shinier or the surface smoother, while the Harsh is still at the 2000 grit out-of-box surface. Again, like racing slicks versus snow tires, the rougher surface of the Harsh is going to help the already strong cover stock get even more grip earlier. And like I mentioned before, the more grip or traction the ball gets earlier, the smoother it's going to be. Surface, I think, is the one true predictable mathematical constant in bowling and ball tech. Because bowling is so complicated and requires such a deep conceptual understanding to really get, people have tried to boil ball reaction down and make it as simple as possible, but it's just not simple, and the more you try to make a mathematical formula out of bowling, the further you get away from actually understanding it. However, a rougher surface makes the ball stronger, earlier, and smoother. A shinier surface makes the ball weaker, longer, and sharper, period. People will ask what layout they should use, or what surface, or what they should throw on this pattern or that pattern, and there's no way to know because there are too many variables for me to give them any kind of real or even general answer. I don't know their game. I don't know what kind of lane machine is putting the pattern down. I don't know what kind of oil is being used. I don't know the lane surface, and even when I know all of that going into a tournament myself, I still have to throw several different balls down the lane to figure out what that pattern is asking for in that center on that day. The point is, coming back to surface, it's consistent, it's predictable, and if you don't like it, you can change it, or if you continue to throw the ball, it will change on its own, so never be afraid of changing surface. It's one of the easiest and simplest ways to adjust the ball reaction to fit your game and the conditions. One final point that trips people up is that more surface and or a stronger ball should cover more boards than a weaker one, and that's not the case. Stronger balls like the Harsh Reality are designed to hook through heavy oil and be controllable because it's very easy for small misses to result in big trouble down lane on heavier oil patterns, so you don't want to swing the entire lane with them. The idea on heavier oil is to get a strong ball that gets traction or grip and is smooth and controllable so that you can play straighter, because that makes it easier to hit the pocket. As the lanes dry up and you have to move inside or deeper on the lane to find more oil and play a bigger swing, that's when you want something like the Absolute Power that's not going to start hooking as early as a ball like the Harsh Reality, and that's then going to be able to react stronger on the back end to get back up to the pocket. Again, remember the concept we talked about earlier. Stronger balls will get more grip or traction through the oil, which will make them earlier and smoother. Early and smooth obviously doesn't mean swing the whole lane, so remember to stop and logic every once in a while. Weaker balls can't get traction through the oil, they glide or hydroplane more on it, but then that helps them react more strongly to dry boards, which helps them cover more boards. When you have more oil, stronger balls will act stronger than weaker ones, but when you have a really dry condition or are on a lot of transition, weaker balls will obviously act stronger then because they respond more sharply to dry. If there's plenty of dry, they're going to be quicker than stronger balls that will still be smoother. You use snow tires for snow, right? There's a reason that NASCAR drivers don't use snow tires, because they're not driving in snow, so you can't say, well, stronger balls that have more grip should then be even stronger when the lanes are dry. Racing slicks on dry asphalt will obviously grip more than snow tires, but once you get onto snow, they get zero grip. Stronger and weaker bowling balls on oil versus dry is the exact same concept. Finally, with your newfound knowledge, how do you then apply it and figure it all out? Cores are easy. They have numbers associated with the cores, and you can use those to figure out how strong the core is, how much it flares, symmetric versus asymmetric. So next to surface, once you understand them, again, use the links in the description to learn about cores and layouts. They're also very mathematical and constant. The covers are the tricky things because there are slick or cool names, but there's no kinds of numbers or ratings to help you figure out what the strength of the cover actually is. Generally, the more expensive a ball is, the stronger it is, but the Harsh Reality and Absolute Power are exactly the same price and are obviously a fair amount different. All the manufacturers put out plenty of information on the web pages for the balls to help you figure it out though. All you have to do is read and do a little research. You can't get mad at ball prices when you walk into a shop, something catches your eye and you drop a couple $100 and then get mad when it doesn't act like every other ball in your regular league. Teeing off with a putter or using a driver on the green isn't likely to go as well as it would if you use the right club for the right situation. Bowlers for some reason want to buy different balls to have different reactions, but then somehow want them to all be throwable and usable in league. Throughout all of this, you'll notice we didn't talk tech. No layouts, no ball numbers, no lane conditions, but I still think that you now have a really good understanding of what the Absolute Power does. There's a link to the website in the description with all the technical information, videos that will teach you how to understand it, and I have 2 other videos with all the tech and conditions and layouts and surface info you could want. At the same time, everything but the actual ball is going to vary. Your game, your conditions, your layout, your surface, etc. So there are really only 2 things that you can get from a ball review. A general look at the ball reaction and how it compares with other balls so that you can use the comparisons to place where this ball actually fits and what it does compared to the other known constants, so to speak. Going all the way back, the Absolute Power has a strong core and a medium strength cover. It's not as early, strong, or smooth as a Gem or Harsh Reality. It's of similar strength to the Clone but is a little longer and sharper. It has a stronger core but weaker cover stock than balls like the Summit, Optimum Idol, and Phase 2, and it's very similar in reaction to something like a Tour Dynamics. The Power just has both a slightly stronger cover and core, which makes it a little more aggressive and dynamic. There's also a link in the description to get one ordered at Bowler's Mart. I do receive a 5% commission on all sales through the link, and don't forget my code ROSEDALL10, which will get you 10% off your purchases at CoolWick. That's also available in the description as well to copy and paste so you don't misspell my weird name. Thank you for watching, and may the strikes be with you.